And we're live. Yes. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be listening in to this chat with myself and the lovely Selina Barker. I'm Erin Taylor. I'm a writer and a yoga teacher, and I write balance practice here on Substack. Selina is a life and career design coach. She's the author of the iconic Hello Goodbye journals, as well as Time to Thrive. I have both of my very well loved copies here. Thank you so much for writing them, Selina. I love them. And Selina also writes Another Way here on Substack. So we're here today to talk about rest. And as such, I thought we might begin just with a brief rest practice right where we are. Go ahead and get comfortable. Maybe you're sitting, maybe you're walking, wherever you are. Make yourself comfortable, lengthen your spine tall. If you like, close your eyes. Then take a deep breath in, settling your attention inward. And then exhaling completely. Just feeling yourself kind of arrive and land right where you are, just as you are. Continuing to deepen your breathing and just considering for a moment that one of the most kind of powerful and accessible gestures we can make to ourselves in the moment to calm and settle ourselves is to simply lengthen our exhale, which has a very profound calming effect on the nervous system. So we'll just breathe together here for a moment, inhaling to a count of 4 and exhaling to a count of 6. Exhale your breath completely. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In 1, 2, 3, 4. Out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Continue. Just slowing it down. Keep exhaling. Just counting gently to yourself in your mind. Stay with it. Let's take one more round like this. Eventually letting go of your count. Keep breathing deeply and feeling your breath, your exhale, just a little bit longer than your inhale. It's really calming and clearing whatever you've had going on so far today or yesterday or this week. One more deep breath here. And actually open your eyes. Well done. Welcome. Well, thanks for being here, Selina. It's so lovely to see you.
It's so great to be here. Oh my goodness, rest. Wow. It is a topic I am so passionate about and something that took me and has taken me such a long time to become a person that values rest and prioritizes rest. Like it just even saying that makes me feel emotional. Like as we were doing that breathing exercise, it made me think that when I actually allow myself to rest and be receptive to rest, which is something you wrote in your book, which I adore and has been right by my side over the past few weeks because I've been prioritizing rest and recovery. That's what my February is. I've decided to dedicate it to that. A different version of me gets to emerge. And there's something really poignant about that. That there's so often a version of me that is, and my default is to be very adrenalized. I'm a very excitable person. I'm very enthusiastic. That's a wonderful thing. But sometimes I can live in that high gear all the time. And when I rest, it is like a different version of me that comes out. And it's a softer version.
Mm,
And just even that moment there, I felt like, oh, there's a resistance to resting at the start of something like this. I want to dive in and talk and talk and talk. But
mm,
that pause and taking that rest, I was like, oh, there she is. There's that other version of me.
mm,
It's rest and recovery, I think, can sound like a practical nice to have, but it's really profound. Like it's there's a deep spiritual energy to it as well. So
absolutely. And as you say, I think that it's almost like when we rest, it's rest is like a remembrance in so many ways. When we rest, we remember ourselves. Almost like we think, oh, it's this new version of myself or this different part of myself. It's really, as you just said, we rest. Oh, there I am. There she is.
yeah.
And it's so important. I always have felt like rest is the most underutilized and yet readily available tool for our well-being across all aspects of life.
I would love to know what brought you to the topic of rest. Like why has that become such a central kind of part of what your message is and what you're here to teach?
Mm. Yeah, I think I've always been drawn toward restorative practices, and I've seen in over 20 years of teaching yoga to all kinds of people, everyone from elite athletes to corporate executives, mothers, teachers, artists, and I will say just across all of these demographics, the most startling imbalance I see everywhere I look is the imbalance between working and resting.
Mm.
We are tired. The world is tired because we live in a world that asks us to do too much all the time and leaves little to no opportunity or space to really absorb or integrate what's happened, really to make sense of any of it. And so, um, I really feel like rest, recovery, restorative practice. I use these words and terms interchangeably it's essential. And again, one of the most underutilized tools available to all of us. It's for all of us.
So you were always drawn to that because it's funny because and actually I don't even know if you do you know that I also wrote a book on burnout. I
Yes.
wrote Burnt Out, yeah. So that I mean, I wrote that book as someone who had recovered from burnout, and I'm will always be a recovering workaholic. I grew up, my dad was a workaholic. I am so like him. I'm a blueprint of him in many ways. So I've come to rest through a lot of resistance.
Mm.
But did you feel from quite a young age drawn to that sort of beauty of that restorative practice, or did you come to it also because you on your knees and you had to?
I think I definitely felt called toward it as
Mm.
a remedy, as medicine, because I definitely have the tendency to overdo. I always have. And I think really in my late 20s, I began to really become more aware of that. And so rest has really become the counterbalance,
Mm.
my own inclination to do a lot.
Why do you think we're not receptive to rest? That was something that it was like the first question I wrote down. I was like, I want to hear more about this. Like, because I'd never even considered that, but it really resonated that you have to be receptive to rest. And I'm curious well, obviously you write about it in your book, but what do you mean by that? And why do you think we are so unreceptive to rest? What do you think the resistance is?
Because we do the opposite all the time. And
Mm,
so we're really good at it. We're really good at going, making, doing all the time, you know, amazing, incredible things that we create and, you know, we're just in this zone. And it's almost like we're a little bit, it's so easy to become kind of stuck in the inertia of that, especially when collectively the message is that you must keep sprinting hard to keep up with everything. And so I think there is a natural resistance to moving in the other direction when all the messages we are bombarded with from the moment we wake up each morning tell us that we need to do the opposite. We need to keep running. And so we shouldn't be surprised that when we have a chance to have a pause and have a rest, or it's the weekend, or you've actually booked some proper time off, that we don't immediately feel a sense of relief or relax.
mm,
You know, it's this discomfort of actually moving in the other direction because, you know, the reality is that rest and recovery doesn't happen by default when we close
mm.
up. And it is an active process. Really, it's something that we have to train in the same way that we would train a muscle at the gym.
Yeah.
Our ability to really calm down, shift gears, transition our nervous system from this very heightened state to, a more calm baseline of balance, which, is very easy to lose touch with uh,
Mm.
in the world today.
I think that's one of the biggest things. I mean, I write a lot in Burnt Out in particular about why I think we resist rest and looking after ourselves and self-care. And in that I talk about, which was the basis of my Time to Thrive journal, the 5 energy zones, as a way to frame looking after yourself. And actually once I got this idea of different energy zones from Tony Schwartz and Jim Lower, who, like yourself, had well, I don't think their background is in sports themselves, but they helped sort of tennis champions first. And I always, when I saw that you had your sort of, your beginnings in you're a basketball player, right? So you've come from that level of like playing sports, being an athlete. And I think that's where we get our greatest lessons, because it's athletes, it's people playing sort of professional sports, taking the game to like a high level, that they cannot like fake it. You can't fake it. You can't pretend like you've got all this energy when actually you haven't got anything left in the tank, because you just can't fake it when you're playing a sport. And so I think that is the area where we have the most to learn, and where people have taken it to the sort of greatest degree and recognize the importance of rest and recovery. I think the rest of us can pretend until we burn out, until we're forced to rest and recover. And I actually think burnout is is nearly always often one of the worst things that you've ever experienced when it gets really bad. But it's also your body and your brain going, we are done, enough. And your body and brain are so wise. And if you're not going to rest and recover and learn how to do it like an athlete, and I was speaking to last week to Dr. Gillian, who is a pediatric ICU physician and a toddler mum, and so she has had to really learn to an athletic, kind of degree, how to rest and recover. But I think we all have to. We're so good at going for it and sort of pushing on through. But I love this idea that, of course, we think that rest and recover is just as easy as going, that it should be easy, should
Mm,
require no effort, because the energy of rest and recovery is just, relax and surrender. But actually, I think what we miss is the piece that, like you say, you have to learn how to teach your nervous system it's safe to relax, and the activities that help you to restore. And it's not just turning the TV on, having a glass of wine and watching sort of mindless box sets.
yeah,
And that's nice now and again,
that's
obviously.
you.
That's great. We can all do that.
Yeah.
But if that's the only way of doing it and there's
Mm,
nothing else going on and it becomes a default, then, as we know, that actually can be counterintuitive, just doesn't actually work and isn't the most restful thing we can do.
yes.
So, but I think, yeah, I am so programmed. And when I was writing Burnt Out, I was really fascinated with yin and yang. And I was like, we are in a society that is yang obsessed, progress, activity, pushing forward, create, do. And we are totally resistant to yin energy, which is the rest and the recovery and the stillness and the non action, and the feminine. It's just like, wow, it's just, we are so out of balance in that way. And actually, I love that we started with a pause and resting and closing our eyes, because I read somewhere, and I want to learn more about yin and yang actually, but that we, instead of going into action first and then rewarding ourselves with rest, actually starting the day with yin energy, starting the day with rest, and then moving into action is actually how it's supposed to be done. And this is why, for me, discovering this idea of managing your energy as a way to keep yourself thriving and looking after yourself really worked for my kind of brain, that, like, I don't know, it just gave me a framework that helped me to look at it like a practical project, rather than, oh yeah, I should be better at looking after myself. But that was so easy to swipe to one side and say, yeah, well, I've got other stuff to do. But now I've got this framework of its energy management. It kind of appeals to that productivity side of me, as well as the side of me that's just saying, please, 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 you need to rest, you need to be still. And so I always say that understanding how to manage your energy really works for both the nurturing side of me that wants me to feel good in myself, but also the ambitious side of me, the sort of productivity obsessed side of me that wants results. Because it's like, oh, okay. So if we focus on managing your energy, you're actually also going to be your most productive and perform at your best. And suddenly those two, up until then, opposing sides were like, oh, well, we can be on the same page,
Mm,
because managing your energy is now how I know I will feel good and I won't burn out. I don't go anywhere near burnout now. In fact, I was just thinking, this year, touch wood, this winter, I haven't been ill. I had a slight cold like last week, and that was it. And I think that's also because I've been I've got really good at looking after myself and managing my energy, even when, you know, things are full on. And, and I also, because there's the ambitious side of me also recognizes now that I need to manage my energy to be my most successful. So it's like win-win on both sides.
yeah. Well done, Selena. And you make so many good points there. I mean, the first thing, we don't have to wait until we are totally on our knees or fully burned out to rest. And, it's so I think that finding ways to really make rest part of the flow of your day to manage and support your energy is just crucial.
Mm.
So many very, very busy, active people. And, I'll say, yeah, people find this really difficult because it is counterintuitive
Yeah.
that actually it's taking these 10 minutes. That's going to support me that to be more productive, more effective,
Hmm.
whatever it is that I need to do later, rather than feeling like we have to get through our to do list and then have a little, rest. reward. I mean, it's like we're waiting for all of the, stars to perfectly align and everything perfectly crossed off that to do that. When does that ever actually happen? And so if you're waiting for that to rest, you're going to be waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
The beauty of rest is you don't have to wait until the end of the day, or the weekend, or when you have all those things ticked off your list. Um, it is, I think, so often the smallest gestures that we can make to ourselves in the moment when we truly
Yeah.
need rest the most that actually hold the greatest power to really restore and fuel us to do whatever it is that needs doing. I mean, it's similar to yoga. People tell me they don't have time to do yoga because they can't go to an hour-long class, and, I've always felt that you'll get more out of, doing something 5 minutes a day that is contextual to how you are actually feeling, what's going
Mm.
how imbalance is showing up, addressing that in 5 minutes a day rather than going to one random hour-long class a week, you will get so much more out of that, and it's the same with rest, these small gestures, and I think so often we defeat ourselves before we even start because we feel like we don't have this big container of time, and so it doesn't matter, um,
Yeah.
but it does, it all matters, these little almost like rest snacks really
Well,
add up.
I mean, just looking at the woman on the front of your cover with her legs up the wall, it is a woman, yeah, with her legs up the wall, it's just like, and you can do that for 2 minutes. I mean, maybe, well, it depends what office you work in. You might be able to do it in the office or a meeting room, but you can certainly do it at home. And it is recognizing, and I say this all the time in Time to Thrive, it's the small things. People think to feel wildly different, they have to completely overhaul their life. They have to be a different person, the kind of person that gets up at 5 a.m. to do an hour of yoga and make their green juice and, do all this kind of thing. And it's like, no, no, I'm glad to tell you that it takes far less than that. And you don't have to be a different person. I'm always telling people I am, do you know what I had for the first time an astrology reading? I had my birth chart reading, and it said, you come from a lot of chaos, but your purpose is to move towards order and life design being, my
Mm,
sort of main thing. And I was like, okay, well, it's good. Yeah, it's good to know. I mean, if we were to turn the camera down and look around me, my office is yet again a sea of chaos. And I'm like, you can be a total mess and feel more energized than ever. And I am I'm testimony to that because I haven't got an organized house. One day we might get there. One day I might get through my resistance to not living in chaos. But you don't have to be perfect. You can be beautifully imperfect and chaotic and still start to do the small things that really make a big difference. And I think it is certainly for me, and I'm curious to find out from you, it's showing people how these small things really can make a big difference. And tiny step by tiny step, you start to create ways of practices that actually really do make a significant difference. But it's also, I think, so important to talk about why we have so much resistance, how we are the products of a society that is totally yang obsessed and completely resists the yin, the stillness, the recovery. I talk about this in Burnt Out a lot about how, particularly if you're a woman, but I think everyone to a degree, is really deeply programmed to believe that to have value in the world, we must be doing, and we must be, well, and if you're a woman in particular, you should be of service to the needs of others. And so when we do stop and rest, and we're not doing, which is where we get our value from, and we're not looking after the needs of everyone else for a moment, which is particularly as a woman where you get your purpose and your role from, or that's what we're told. That's where the resistance comes from, I think, because I think we are designed to thrive, and our bodies and our brains are made for it. It's just that we're not giving ourselves what we need in order to thrive. And a huge part of that is the rest and recovery. I think it's one of the biggest parts of it.
yeah. Absolutely. And it's something that it's so unique and personal as well. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're for someone to give you permission, it's not coming.
Yeah.
Uh, the who can say, right, I'm going to have a little pause now. I'm going to close my eyes for a few minutes. I'm going to put my phone down and look out the window while the kiddo instead of scrolling or, rushing around to do this and that. The only person who can make those choices is you. And um, I think that you were saying, I think often people think, yeah, to do this right and to find the balance, I've got to get up at 5 and, you know, overhaul everything. And I just really want to encourage everyone listening today to think about, all the rest that's right in front of you. Okay. So this is in the moments when, you notice that you are feeling foggy. A task that usually takes you 2 minutes is taking you 20. Really clear message from all of your systems, about where your energy is. You're feeling agitated, just sluggish. Your mood is dipping. I call these are stop signs. You're very clever, amazing bodies just giving you these messages all the time. And so it's really our job to listen, become more aware, pay attention and respond. So it's our attention,
Yeah.
the greatest power to restore us. All you need is your attention. Even the brief breathing practice we started with, no app, no mat. All you need is your attention. Um, so in the book, I have a whole chapter of quick resets because I recognize, and over the years, this has been kind of often the most popular sort of content I've created. Quick resets because people are busy. Oh, what can I do? Oh, I can't change my job or this or that. My kids, whatever. Um, what can I do though? What can you do in the moment? I think that transitions are one of the best opportunities we have to really have a little pause. So, for example, as a practice for myself, every day before I go pick my kids up from school, I make a hard stop, at least like 15 minutes. Ideally, usually I make it more like 30 or longer, but minimum is 15 to really stop what I'm doing. And I put myself into a restorative posture. Sometimes it's legs up the wall or child's pose, just something gentle that gives me that transition for not just my body, but really for my whole nervous system to
Yeah.
to shift gears. And, even when I feel really rushed, oh, I just want to finish off that one last thing. Then I'll feel relaxed if I finish that one thing. There's always more things.
Yeah.
And taking that little window to actually do that brief practice, that just changes everything. That changes who I am when I show up at the school gates. And then, one of the things that inspires me and motivates me more than anything to actually use those practices is then seeing the effect it has on everyone around me. Uh,
Mm.
so, um, I really encourage everyone to think about, where are these little pauses? And maybe you work in an office, you can't put your legs up the wall. That's okay. Maybe for you that looks like sitting in your car and closing your eyes and breathing in the parking lot for 2 minutes before you get out and move on. Something as simple as this. And it might not seem like a lot at first, but as you use these practices, it's like you gain equity with them. The more we use these tools, the more you can feel your system kind of asking for it. And then these practices become not another to do, not another thing to fit in, but a natural part of the flow of your day. It's kind of like, brushing your teeth. You wouldn't just not brush your teeth. You'd feel a little bit dirty, right? You just, you feel yourself drawn to naturally, I close my eyes and take 3 deep breaths between calls. Or naturally, I just do these things. I don't have to remind myself. I just do them because
Yeah.
it feels right and it fuels me. And you feel it when you practice.
Yeah. And I think it's also experimenting and finding what works for you. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm not that kind of person. Or, well, I wouldn't enjoy that. Well, then, well, first of all, try it before writing something off. Like I used to say for years, in fact, I think I even say in Burnt Out, I that meditation just doesn't work for me.
Mm,
I couldn't get into it. It was just, I was just like, everyone's like, you could probably really do well with meditation. And I was like, "Ugh, I can't. Asking me to be to that level of still, it doesn't work." And then a yoga teacher who I love started doing these live morning yoga classes, half an hour yoga, 20 minutes of yoga and 10 minutes of meditation.
mm,
And I felt so good after doing them, but also I discovered that I needed movement before my mind could. And also, there was a lot of, sometimes the meditation was moving your hands and it was guided. Now I love meditation. I need to get back into it again because she doesn't do the live classes anymore. But I discovered that actually I was writing off meditation. I just hadn't found a way that worked for me. But
mm,
also, there are things like if my mind just cannot switch off, I need to give sitting still with my eyes closed wouldn't feel relaxing for me in moments when my mind's whirring around. So things like Sudoku. I mean, the moment I start Sudoku, nothing else is important other than those numbers and figuring it out. My mind can get completely absorbed into it. Same with sketching and drawing, which I've started doing again, which I resisted for ages. Now I do it with my son. We started doing every day a bit of
mm,
sketching time, screen free time as well. But we both love doing it. So now we're like, oh, let's go do some drawing. And so it's also experimenting and remembering the things that you enjoyed that help you to rest. But I think it's so important that people don't assume that it has to look a certain way and therefore they'd have to be doing things that they don't actually enjoy. It's like, no, find the things that are restful for you, that you do enjoy, that do work for whatever environment you're in when you're working. And I love that of transitions because for me, that really helps me to have these like containers of time so I
mm,
can be completely absorbed. Because if I'm in my work and thinking I should be finding time to rest, that would make me quite agitated. So if I go, then you have this time, whether it's your lunchtime or before you go and pick up the kids or before you leave work, using that transition. If you work in an office and have to travel home, that travel time can be really well utilized. And it's a container that you're forced to have
yeah.
kind of thing. Um, and accountability works really well for me. As someone who does naturally resist rest, having accountability, like even just now when we started this conversation, you saying, should we do some rest? It's like, okay, okay. And then as we did, I was like, wow, there she is, you know? And that's not a side of me. That softer side is not someone I normally bring into
Mm,
a conversation like this that's being watched and, you
yeah.
know, I've remembered her again. Just
Yeah.
saying that. Oh, there she
And that was just a minute.
Yeah,
I think that's part of it. It doesn't take a lot. Um, it's just finding those moments for yourself amid
yeah,
your amid the madness of
yeah.
life. Um,
And it's using the things like the cup of tea.
mm,
Actually, before this, my dad gave my dad gave me for Christmas a bird feed, one that the pigeons can't get to, so that it and we've lots of little birds. We've had goldfinches in the garden, which is really exciting.
mm,
So went and sat, and we've got and these small things. We also got recently got in our kitchen like a sort of small armchair that you can properly, not just sort
mm,
of hard wooden kitchen chairs that we have. So I sat with my porridge on the chair and looked out at the birds on the
mm,
in the bird feed, and I was just like, it's these tiny changes. And it was while I was having my porridge and my cup of tea, but it's those moments doing the things like that we have to do each day and
yeah,
turning those into opportunities
yeah,
to rest for a moment until that tea is finished or that breakfast is finished and gazing out of the window, lying on your bed, staring at the ceiling or gazing out of the window, bored, getting to the point of boredom, ideally, because when do we allow ourselves to get bored, is hugely underestimated.
It I mean, that's in my book, Horizon Gaze. It's a restorative practice.
Yeah.
Take your take your face away from your screens and just feel your attention really settle. Great
Yeah.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that gives everyone a few ideas of what they might practice today at some point. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Selena and I would love to hear how you're resting. So I'm hoping that our listeners will share your favorite rest practice. What are the gestures you make to yourself in the moments when you really need rest the most? Please do drop us a comment, and we will choose one listener to send a pair of our books to. Yes, 5 and ever. So please do let us know. Would love to hear and really kind of your practice notes, your real life practice notes. This really inspires everyone. So thanks for listening and for sharing. And thanks, Selena, for the relaxing chat. I feel a
Thanks,
little
Erin.
calm. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.